do you go from a jumble of yarn like this and a pile of Knex like this?
Well, maybe a bigger pile.
To a fully functional loom and a nice scarf. Okay, the scarf's a little too short. I'm Luke, and on this episode of Connections, we'll be spending some time with my Knex rigid Heddle Loom. First, I'm going to show you how the loom works. We're going to need some technical weaving terms to fully understand it. Weaving is the interlocking of warp threads, these long ones that are wrapped around this roller, and weft threads, the ones wrapped around this thing, the shuttle. The shuttle passes back and forth over and under the warp threads to form a fabric. The key to this kind of loom is this mostly orange piece, called the reed. Really, it is also the heddle. Regardless, it has slots and holes. Half of the warp threads are in a slot, and half are in a hole. This means that when we raise the heddle to the up position, the threads in the slots don't really move, but the ones in the holes get raised up, forming this space, which weavers call the shed. When you pass the shuttle through the shed, the weft goes over and under alternating threads. Then we use the reed, this thing, to do what is called beading. This slides the newest weft thread, also called a pick, in close to the rest of the fabric we've already woven. To weave another pick, we change sheds by lowering the heddle, passing the weft yarn through, and then beading. I didn't quite start at the very beginning. How did the warp threads get on the loom in the first place? I had to tie them on, which is not terribly easy. There are, however, excellent videos on YouTube explaining the process. See the link in the description. First, the loom has to be secured to the table, as we will be putting the warp under tension. The warp yarn gets tied to the back roller, then loops of it are brought through the slots in the reed and attached somewhere so that the threads are as long as you want your project to be. This time, I am using this little door handle. I added this rubber band so the threads wouldn't slide out. Last time, I didn't pick a point far enough away, so my scarf was too short. After the warp gets wrapped around the back roller, it is brought back through another slot on the reed. This process gets repeated until all the slots are full, changing color as desired. Ideally, the warp threads are under approximately even tension. After all this work, we are still not even close to being ready to weave. Now we have to roll the warp onto the back roller while trying to keep the tension. Easier said than done with one person. Next, we thread the reed by putting one thread from each slot into an adjacent hole. We tie these threads together in bunches of 5 or 6 and then tie them on the front roller.
And we're ready to weave.
There are a few parts of the loom that merit closer inspection. The first is the mechanism by which the warp threads are kept under tension, namely this ratchet. This ratchet makes it so the rollers can spin freely in this direction, but cannot spin at all in this direction. The tension must be kept high enough to keep the reed vertical when it is in the up position. And since the Knex are liable to bend, the loom has 2 ratchets on each side, 4 total. As I said earlier, the essential part of the reed is that it has holes and slots. The obvious way to do this with Knex would seem to be to use an orange connector and a couple rods. But this does not work well because the threads get caught at the connection. Using 3 orange rods makes for a nice, smooth slot. The last important piece I want to talk about is the shuttle, the weaving kind. Though nowadays the word shuttle generally refers to a bus or a spaceship, its origin is in the weaving context. It goes back and forth through the shed carrying the weft, like the airport shuttle drives back and forth carrying people. This is just one of the many examples of how technology casts a shadow in language. Thanks for watching. Leave me a comment or a question below, and be sure to subscribe to see how the new scarf turned out, and for more Knex videos.